Rhythm has already jumped first fence in front of the Dubai Way. Red Opium, who has run since this race card was printed, ran fourth at Friars Hoff last week. He's running third as they head into the first left-hander. Conquredalofeurope, Silvertown and Jimil are in the last three positions. Fascinating Rhythm and Willis to be getting them strung out, having sweated freely beforehand, flew the second fence, and he's already half a dozen lengths clear of the Dubai Way, who in turn is clear of Red Opium. And at the moment, the other three are having their own private duel in the last trio, as Fascinating Rhythm opens up by 10 or a dozen lengths, running on towards fence number 3. So Fascinating Rhythm and Will Easterby hurdled the third fence, fast and low. The Dubai Way over in second. Red Opium cleared it third, ahead of Conquredalofeurope, Silvertown and Jimil. And the leader is on his way to fence number 4. Fascinating Rhythm, who was a useful novice 2 seasons back, and comes out over the fourth fence by 10 lengths from the Dubai Way, 6 to Red Opium and 8 lengths back to the other 3. Jimil has gone off in pursuit of them in front of Silvertown, and Conquredalofeurope has been relegated to last, and Felix Foster's already pushing away with limited response at the moment. Fascinating Rhythm eased off on the approach to fence number 5, has come right back to the Dubai Way, only 3 lengths between them, as the others cleared the 5th fence. They're fairly well strung out still, but the Dubai Way is closed right up on Fascinating Rhythm as they run to a line of 3 fences, 6, 7 and 8. Fascinating Rhythm over the first of them from the Dubai Way, Red Opium in third, then the gap back to the other 3. Silvertown was very ponderous behind Jimil, Conquredalofeurope in rear. Now to the open ditch, fence number 7. Fascinating Rhythm by 3 from the Dubai Way, and then Red Opium, and they're clear of Jimil, Silvertown and Conquredalofeurope. 1 circuit completed, coming towards the 8th fence. Fascinating Rhythm nips over it, going clear again of the Dubai Way and Red Opium, and then 10 or 12 lengths back to Jimil, urged along in 4th, and now getting reminders. Conquredalofeurope and Silvertown in the last pair. Turning towards fence number 9, Fascinating Rhythm by 3 lengths from the Dubai Way, by 5 to Red Opium, by 10 to Jimil. As Fascinating Rhythm comes to jump the cross fence and flies it, 5 clear of the Dubai Way, similar margin to Red Opium, a much bigger gap to Jimil, and then Conquredalofeurope, who's relegated Silvertown to be the back marker. They're roughly at halfway. They're really well strung out, with Fascinating Rhythm leading them into the straight for the second time on their way towards fence number 10. Fascinating Rhythm, who's not seen a rival so far, over the 10th, about 8 lengths in front of the Dubai Way, Red Opium, long gap to Jimil, and then Conquredalofeurope and finally Silvertown, as they work their way up the home straight on the second occasion and come to jump fence number 11. So Fascinating Rhythm eased off again by Will Easterby, allowing the Dubai Way to close right up, only a length between them, 3 or 4 lengths to Red Opium. The other 3 are making no inroads though. Jimil, Conquredalofeurope and Silvertown. They're still well behind the front 3, who race along in front of us now on towards fence number 12. So Fascinating Rhythm from the Dubai Way and Red Opium as they come to jump the 12th fence. Fascinating Rhythm by a length and a half, chasing trio all over it safely as they encounter this downhill sharp left-hander that takes them down the side and onto fences 13, 14 and 15. Fascinating Rhythm from the Dubai Way, who's less than a length behind jumping that, 3 to Red Opium, and then Jimil, and Conquered All of Europe and Silvertown. The open ditch in front of the leaders. The Dubai Way's upsides, Fascinating Rhythm, but the latter accelerates going into the fence, comes away a length up. Silvertown barely got over the open ditch. He's now tailed off. Jimil and Conquered All of Europe haven't lost any more ground on the front three. If anything, they've gained a bit, coming over 4 from home. Fascinating Rhythm looking to go clear of the Dubai Way and Red Opium once again. The trailing trio were over it, with Conquered All of Europe making headway in 4th, Jimil being left behind by him in 5th, and Silvertown tailed off last of the 6. They are turning towards 3 out. Red Opium now takes 2nd under Rosie Howarth. Only a length off Fascinating Rhythm. The Dubai Way pushed along, but finding the front 2 going a bit too quick for him at the 3rd from home. Conquered All of Europe jumped it in 4th ahead of Jimil, and Silvertown creeps over it last of all. So they're running towards the turn in, and Red Opium, who's race fit, has taken over from Fascinating Rhythm after jumping 3 out, and Fascinating Rhythm is being immediately pulled up by Willis to be as if something has gone amiss. So Red Opium is left clear of the Dubai Way. Conquered All of Europe is staying on for Felix Foster, but Red Opium has a clear lead going over 2 out from the Dubai Way. The running on Conquered All of Europe, and then Jimil will jump into remote 4th, and Silvertown is still on his way to it as the protagonists race between the last 2 fences. Red Opium from Conquered All of Europe and the Dubai Way, who are both closing in on the mare in front of them. Red Opium reaches the last, only 2 clear of Conquered All of Europe and the Dubai Way. They're a long way in front of Jimil on the run for home. It is Red Opium from Conquered All of Europe, who's still running on, going up towards the line. Red Opium probably just held on from my angle from Conquered All of Europe and the Dubai Way. Jimil has finished a remote 4th, and Silvertown is last of the 5. And the good news is that Fascinating Rhythm seems to be sound. The jockey's still